Hey, lovers! Welcome to the Book Lovers Club, the podcast where we celebrate Black sapphic love stories, one book at a time. I'm your host, Joy, a married lesbian, lifelong book lover, and relational communication scholar. Here, we don't just read the romance, we learn from it. I believe that love stories can do more than just entertain us. They can teach us how to love better, how to see ourselves more clearly, and how to create the love life of our dreams. Each week, I'll dive into sapphic stories written for us and by us, while weaving in personal insights and communication lessons you can take off the page. So grab your drink, get cozy, and let's turn the page together. Welcome to the club. Hey, book lovers! Welcome back to another episode of the Book Lovers Club. And guess what today is, y'all? It's my anniversary, made for you and me. And it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Love Day. I hope y'all getting loved up on, licked up on, okay? And if you are unattached, I hope you are enjoying some Valentine's Day. Any energy you want to receive today, okay? If this is a self-love day. But for me, Valentine's Day is a day to just celebrate and embrace and experience love. And if y'all can't tell, I think I've mentioned it a few times, but Valentine's Day is my favorite fucking holiday. Okay, I love it so much. Even before I chose it as a wedding date, it was my favorite holiday. And I've actually had some very interesting Valentine's days over the years. Okay, back in high school, one year on Valentine's Day, my car got stolen. So, not every Valentine's Day has been a great holiday experience for me, but the day is really a day to just really center love, whether it's self love, familial love, friendship love, just love. But yeah, Lil baby been married for 1 year. I actually have some people that I know that got divorced on their 1 year anniversary. So we're already defying odds, baby, okay? Because we not only made it to our 1 year anniversary, but we've been happy. And I used to joke about how I was creating the rom-com of my dreams. So I'm out here living my own romantic comedy and all of this stuff. And I really manifested this life for myself. So I'm just in a really good mood. By the time you all hear this, I will be out of the state, enjoying my anniversary, doing what I do best and what I enjoy is spending time in nature, doing a little hiking, because that's what we wanted to do. When we got married, we actually wanted to have a nature wedding, like a nature elopement, adventure style wedding, where we go out into the forest in the mountains with some water. I was really on some Twilight. I loved Bella and Edward's wedding from the Twilight movies. Okay. I thought it was so beautiful and picturesque. And that was the type of vibe that we wanted somewhere in the mountains, giving Bella and Edward. But, not everyone in our family likes to be in nature and hike and things like that. So if we were going to do that, it was really going to be like just the two of us. But we decided not to do that so that we can include more people in our wedding. So the fact that on our year anniversary, we're going to go to the Pacific Northwest is really warming my heart. Okay. So if all goes well and all goes according to plan and we don't have any hiccups with like the weather or anything like that, by the time y'all hear this, I will be visiting Forks, Washington. I will be out there getting my life, running through the same woods as my Twilight brethren. And I'm just so excited. Okay, I'm so excited because, we're a very non traditional couple and we're going to do things our way. And that's how we wanted to spend our anniversary. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But today's episode, I will be sharing with you all just some wisdom, things that I've learned in my first year of marriage. And anyone out there that's newly engaged, I know quite a few people who have recently gotten engaged. So, as you all are embarking on your wedding planning journey and you're about to get married, I want to share some wisdom and some tips from someone who's recently done it and persevered, okay? This episode is all about love and love lessons that I've learned on this journey. to Happy Wife, Happy Life, and just love lessons that I've learned from some of the books we've read thus far. All right. So next week will be the book discussion episode, and we'll talk about A Little Kissing Between Friends by Chencia Higgins and Peaches and Honey by Karmen Lee. And I'll give my book rating for both books. And then on the 28th, my interview with Erica Alexander will drop. So, first up, let's talk about married life. Happy wife, happy life. All right. So, as a very non traditional couple, my wife and I have like really leaned into doing things our way. And that's my biggest like advice to anybody that is embarking on a wedding planning journey, that's newly engaged or wants to be engaged. Really choosing to approach things in a way that's unique to you and trusting your gut and knowing who you all are as a couple, because people will project onto you what they think you should do, what they think a wedding should be like, what they think a marriage should be like. And if you're like us, honestly, I wanted to do things our way. There aren't a lot of couples where I feel like their marriage is something that I really want to replicate. We are all different people and all want different things out of our relationship. And as a queer couple, I feel like we're really creating this stuff up as we go. We're not following these heteronormative scripts and just these heteronormative standards that have been set for us, and really defying all of that and choosing to create a relationship that really centers us and what we want for ourselves. And sometimes that will clash with people because what you envision for your life and what you envision for your marriage might not align with what other people think a marriage should look like or a marriage should be. For example, there are some married couples that don't live in the same city. They're married, but they live long distance. There are some couples that are married that don't share the same household or don't sleep in the same bed. So, like I said, how your relationship functions and how you want it to be should really be between you and your partner. And I think that's where a lot of couples go wrong, is letting too many people and too many voices into their relationship. And that's something me and my wife do not do. I'm even very particular about what I share on this podcast and what I share on social media and things, because I'm very protective of us as a couple. I really want to make sure that our relationship isn't being impacted by other people, So it's something that I'm very private about. I'm not about to be on the internet talking about my relationship and sharing my business. That's just not what I'm going to do. Even today, as I'm talking about marriage and I'm talking about my relationship, I'm not giving y'all no tea. Okay. And I think that's why this first year of marriage, despite me embarking on this podcasting journey and being more visible on social media, how I've been able to maintain our privacy and keep our relationship protected throughout that process. No knock to anybody else, but y'all won't catch me doing couples content like that, because I don't want all of our close, intimate moments to be for public consumption. I want something to just be for us. And I think that that's what has led to us really enjoying our marriage. We don't have everybody in our business. So take what you want from that. But yeah, we don't have everybody in our business. Another thing, we know each other's love languages. So quality time is both of our like really top love languages. So we spend a lot of quality time with one another. We still have lives outside of each other. I got all the hobbies and side projects, okay? And so does my wife. And I think that prevents us from like falling into like that codependency trap that I see some couples fall into. So having your own separate identity and having your own friends and life outside of your partner is really healthy and really helpful. Those of you who are newly engaged and you're currently trying to plan your wedding, my number one piece of advice is to not go in debt planning your wedding. Do not feel pressure to keep up with the Joneses, especially if you are a queer couple. Plan the wedding of your dreams by all means. Do whatever it is that's going to make the day, night, weekend, that whole wedding experience memorable for you. But it is not a good idea starting your marriage in debt. And that is something that I was so adamant about, because people will get in your ear and will tell you what they think you should do, what they think you should wear, what they think you should serve, all kind of stuff, and have no skin in the game. They're not helping you pay for shit, but they got all these opinions about what you should do for your wedding. And that stuff will start to add up really quick. Okay, really quick. I do not believe in couples starting their marriage in debt, because financial problems is like a number one cause for divorce. So, learning how to manage those finances and how to make those tough financial decisions through the wedding planning process will give you a really good foundation for your marriage, because there's always going to be financial obstacles, things can happen. Learning how to manage that through the wedding planning process, I think will only benefit you. So, knowing how to say no and tell people, like, no, I'm not doing that. Thanks for the suggestion, but no. Our wedding was a really enjoyable experience for us and our guests. And it's because we chose to do things our way. For those of you who listened to earlier episodes, I really went into detail on a couple of forevers about our wedding planning process, but we chose to do things very non traditionally. Like I mentioned, we got married on Valentine's Day, so we really leaned into that theme. So it didn't stress us. The whole wedding weekend was fun for us, and you should enjoy your wedding too. Like, it should be food that you want to eat, music that you want to dance to. You should be at the center of your wedding planning plans. But it's really easy to let family and people kind of come and steal the show. So stay true to yourself and stay true to who you are as a couple while you're planning your wedding. And be unapologetic about that shit. My rule of thumb is, if you haven't met my wife, if somebody didn't know both of us or they never met us, I didn't feel any type of pressure or obligation to invite those people to my wedding, because that's where the money and the costs come in, is the food and trying to have all these guests and stuff like that. But if you can afford it, ball out. But not everybody can do that. So just be mindful that those wedding expenses will start to add up real quick. I really feel like the wedding planning process is like one of the first tests of how you both work as a team and how you all approach conflict, financial planning, family dynamics, and conversations with your parents and extended family. So, really look at that as the lesson that it is, okay? But be unapologetic about that shit. Do what y'all want to do. And fuck what anybody else have to say, for real. Okay? But it's a lot of lessons that I am going to carry with me into my second year of marriage. We've read some really good books together on this podcast. So if you've been following along from the beginning, because some of y'all, I got some A1, day one fans. Okay, y'all been rocking with me since the very first episode. And I am so very grateful that y'all have been following this journey and being with me and reading along with me. But we've read some really good books together. The very first book that we read together was Devon and Kris Plan a Wedding by Chencia Higgins. And I really enjoyed that book. But one of the big lessons from that book that I'm going to carry with me into my second year of marriage is the importance of PDA. If you listen to my episode, Kiss It Better, I talked about the health benefits to expressing affection and how that book really made me just want to be way more affectionate in public and really push back on this pressure to be a certain way in public as a queer couple. So I feel like ever since I read that book, I've been really more loving and affectionate, holding my wife's hands, being like just super gay in public, okay? Super gay. And I really have that book to thank for that, because it really put me in the headspace. And then the second book that we read was This Poison Heart by Kalynn Bayron. We read that in October. And that book, I feel like our girl, Bree, she learned firsthand the difficulties that come from familial expectations and trying to live up to these expectations that are projected and placed on you, especially with her having like supernatural powers and having to protect this family secret. And how I feel like that applies to marriage is that my wife and I, we're trying to create our own traditions, and we want to create a marriage of our dreams. and really figure out who we are as a couple and what we're trying to grow and build together for our future. Sometimes that's in contradiction with some of the expectations and traditions that are placed on you by your family. Having the bravery to really push back and defining what type of traditions we want to create for ourselves is something that I really want us to continue to lean into in our second year of marriage, especially around how we want to celebrate holidays. I am very family oriented, do not get me wrong. I'm very close with my family, but I still want my wife and I to have traditions that are things that we created for ourselves. And this Poison Heart really got me in that headspace of like really unpacking family traditions and thinking about it in terms of our marriage and what we want our traditions to be. You know, having traditions that are inclusive of our family, but also traditions that are separate from our family that are really about us and what we want. So, like I said, I'm going to continue to lean into that in year 2 of marriage. The other book that we read was Flirting Lessons by Jasmine Guillory. That book really reminded me about the importance of dating and flirting. Even though you are married and you're a couple, you should never stop dating each other and never stop being flirtatious. You know, it keeps the romance alive and keeps things spicy. Because I feel like a lot of couples where they tend to go wrong is when they stop having sex and they stop being cute and flirty with each other. Because it's a real slippery slope, especially for lesbians, to end up feeling like your roommates. Okay? Nah, not over here. Okay. So that's something I'm going to continue to carry into my second year of marriage is just the importance of being flirtatious with my wife. And who doesn't love some witty banter? The other book we read was The Chef's Christmas Charade. So that was our December book pick. Rose was really kind of like down and out on her luck. And that one was like a fake dating. But a big takeaway for me, you know, adversity and things might happen to us and we might hit a rough patch, but you don't let that break you. You find a way to push through and find a way to persevere. Life happens while you're married. And, you know, people, you might deal with deaths in the family, loss of wages or unemployment, and really choosing to get up and not wallow in it and really fight your way through. You're going to have to do that in your marriage. So I'm going to take that lesson from the Chef's Christmas Charade. In January, we read Ain't Too Old to Grind by Aunt Georgia Lee and then Bliss by Fiona Zedde. And Ain't Too Old to Grind, the lesson that I'm taking from that book is the importance of food. Okay, that book really made me hungry and talked about food so much. But one thing I will say is that my wife is like Cleo. Like she the chef in the relationship. Little baby can burn in the kitchen. Okay, however, my ass is like Destiny. I can cook a little bit, but I can't do what she do. I cannot do what she do. However, my wife shows love through cooking, and that book did remind me like sometimes it's not about the end result so much as it is the gesture and the process. Because, you know, I just think about when Destiny almost burnt her damn kitchen down, and then Cleo came over and saved the day and salvaged dinner, and how much fun they had cooking together. So that's something I'm going to carry with me into my second year of marriage. I want to cook more with my wife. I definitely be eating good. She got me spoiled in here, okay? She be cooking her ass off and just be feeding me. And I'm not complaining, would never complain. I be bragging, okay? I take all that food to work and be showing them, look what my wife made. Okay, I be bragging. However, I'm going to do more to reciprocate in this second year of marriage, okay? If anything, I'll just make sure we cook together. I want to have some fun like Miss Cleo and Destiny did in the kitchen, okay? Bliss. Miss Bliss Sinclair flew her ass on over to Jamaica. And that book just reminded me the importance of a getaway. Sometimes you just need a change of scenery. And one thing my wife and I are going to do is change sceneries. We love to travel. And I'm going to continue to do that because sometimes when we're stressed out and just feeling very overwhelmed, catching that flight, spending that time together in a new place really gives us that energy to like just, ooh, that felt good. You know, so sometimes a change of scenery can really go a long way. And Bliss reminded me of that. So that's a lesson I'm taking into my second year. I'm gonna continue to travel. And then the books that we're reading now, A Little Kissing Between Friends, the friends to lovers trope is one of my favorite tropes. And low key, my wife and I have a little bit of that friends to lovers trope in our relationship story because we started off as friends. We met each other when we were both in college, and we met through a mutual friend and then hit it off and became friends and then eventually became sorority sisters. I ended up relocating and moving like 3 hours away. So we weren't really seeing each other like that, but we kept in touch over the years and reconnected and never stopped talking. So I don't know. I feel like friends to lovers is just one of my favorite tropes, and it reminds me of my wife. But a trope that I loathe is the miscommunication trope, and that is running rampant through this book. Okay, it keeps pissing me off, but it reminds me like communication is key. How easy miscommunications can happen, and that is such a vital thing in a marriage is good communication skills. Miscommunications can often just occur out of nowhere. Words have multiple meanings. So you might say something and mean one thing, but I might interpret it differently or someone else might interpret it differently. So it's just easy for miscommunication to occur. But now that I'm reading this book and I see how irritated I'm getting by the miscommunication trope, that's a lesson I'm taking into my second year of marriage is to really double down on like good communication skills and making sure that if anything does occur, like let's talk it out in a healthy, positive way. You know, conflict gonna always occur, can always occur. It's something that's unavoidable. But how you handle the conflict, how you respond to conflict can make or break a situation. And a lot of people don't realize like communication skills, that's something that you can improve. That's something that you can develop. It is very much a skill. And I think a lot of couples take that for granted. They just assume that everybody has good communication skills. A lot of problems and things that happen in relationships can often be resolved with some better communication behaviors. So that's something that you could work on and that you can develop. But like I said, a lot of people don't see that as a skill, and that's something that they should work on and try to improve. So that's one lesson that I'm taking from this book that we're reading right now is that look, communication is key, baby. Okay, so many things can be avoided with good communication skills. And I'm gonna continue to like lean into that and continue to prioritize that because I think that is like the number one key to a healthy marriage is good communication skills. And then the last book that we're reading right now is Peaches and Honey. A lesson that I'm taking from Peaches and Honey is to not bottle stuff in because I feel like Honey has gone so long with just bottling things up and prioritizing work over her own needs. And I have tendencies to be a workaholic and will pour myself into my work. But there is time where you have to take a break and not let that consume all of your time. Just making sure that I continue to make time for my wife and time for my relationship, but not letting myself get so consumed with work. Also, if I'm feeling overwhelmed or if things are bothering me, not just me, this is anybody, but making sure that you speak on those things and like really make space to acknowledge your emotions and not bottling them up because like we see in this book with Honey, she's experiencing a lot of big emotions and usually will drown them out with her job. And now all of that is starting to come to the forefront. So that's a lesson that I'm taking from that book, okay? This year of marriage has been very insightful and very enjoyable. It really flew by. But yeah, there's just a lot of lessons that I can pull from these books. And that's what this podcast was intended for. I really think that these books can do more than just entertain us. They really can teach us how to love better, how to see ourselves more clearly, and how to really help us create the love life of our dreams. And I really read these books and try to pull inspiration and wisdom from them. And I know we're all reading for different things and like different things and want to experience different things when we're reading these books. But even if I don't like a book, there's still something I can pull from it that I can apply to my everyday life. So those are just some lessons that I could pull from the books that we've read. And just to recap, be gay out loud in public, express all the affection and be unapologetic about that shit, okay? We're going to create our own traditions and really push back on family traditions and societal traditions that no longer serve us. Also, flirting, never stop dating. That is a priority. When faced with adversity and faced with obstacles, fight your way through that shit. Tackle problems together. Tackle problems head on. It's you and your partner against the problem, okay? Really lean into using food as a way to express my love with my wife and cooking her some good meals in this new year. We're going to travel. We're going to experience and explore this world together. We're going to work on our communication skills because communication is key. And then we're not going to work ourselves into the ground, and we're not going to bottle these emotions up. All right? So I hope that y'all enjoy your love day and that you enjoy getting loved up on, licked up on, sucked up on, whatever. Show yourself some love. But I wish all of y'all a happy Valentine's Day. Thank you for tuning in to the Book Lovers Club. If you love today's episode, make sure you subscribe so you never miss a chapter. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review because you know those reviews help other lovers find us. So if you want to keep this conversation going, please join me on Instagram or hop on over to Fable to join the virtual book club. And until next time, remember, the stories we read can help us write the love lives of our dreams. See you next Sapphic Saturday.